Yes? Okay, all right. So, one of the first ones, and what I said in the advertising, these first 4 are ones you can change right away. Okay, so the first one, I call it chemical. And this is really amazing because I do this talk, I do this in my therapy. So if the brain doesn't have enough water, it will start giving the body signals of anxiety. Okay, a lot of people don't know that. We need a lot of water. Okay? So that's a simple thing that you can do. Substances such as caffeine, sugar, and carbohydrates can react in the body like anxiety. And I live that. Okay? I have my threshold. I can have decaf coffee, maybe 1. I have some green tea between noon and 2. And that's it. If I go past 2:30, 3 o'clock, I'm in danger zone, which means I'm up all night. So that's my threshold. I had to learn what my threshold is. Other people, I had one woman, she called me up, she was having so much anxiety, she said, I can't function, I don't know what to do. And she was really, really upset. And I said, well, what have you been eating all day? And she said, well, I've had 10 coffees.
Oh, dear.
And I said, you know what? I don't think it's the anxiety. I think the coffee's giving you the anxiety. So I said, try it and try and wean yourself off. She did, and she couldn't believe how great she felt. She weaned herself right off. It's amazing. Maybe some of you here, because you're part of Nick's practice or in the circle, you're more into diet and you understand, but it's amazing how many people don't understand that caffeine can give us anxiety symptoms. I just had a 20-year-old, did this whole thing with her. She was blown away. She didn't realize that a Red Bull could make her feel anxious. She thought something was wrong with her. I said, there's nothing wrong with you. And she told me, I only drink 3 bottles of water in a week.
Oh.
And I went, sweetie, you're working outside. You've got to get a big jug, and you've got to have 2 of those a day. She said, really? And I said, yeah, you're sweating. No wonder you feel sick. She couldn't believe it. She said, unreal. She's going to go get herself a Bubba mug. So then another thing is, so that's caffeine. Caffeine, you have to watch, is hidden in a lot of different things. So just pay attention to that. The same as sugars. I can have noodles, I can have rice noodles, I can have Kamut noodles. If I have regular white noodles at supper time, I'm awake all night. So you have to know your own body, okay? Everybody's different. My brother can drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep. So can my mom. I didn't get that. Okay, so that's what I mean by know yourself. Carbohydrates, the noodles, you would think, you think, why am I having insomnia? Start looking maybe first at your diet and what you're drinking. That's the first thing I do when someone comes in my clinic is, what are you drinking? What are you eating? What's your diet like? So if you're having these symptoms, okay? Alcohol depletes the body fluids. Again, if we're craving water, we're going to have similar reactions to anxiety, okay? And I put this in, that decaffeinated products and green tea still have caffeine. I did not know for years that decaf coffee still had coffee or caffeine. I didn't know that. I would have decaf, and I thought I was awake for other reasons, but it was the decaf. So when I discovered that, I stopped that. Okay, any questions about that chemical part? Yeah?
I have a question about people who regularly smoke marijuana. How does that affect anxiety? They say it helps them be less anxious. At least I have a client that I'm working with. She's 18 years old, and she smokes every day, and she says it makes her feel better, and yet she's struggling with severe anxiety. Right. So I don't know the chemical connection there.
Well, I have a friend that manages, self-medicates with marijuana the same. It's not wrong not to feel anxious. So that's what So that's how I talk to my clients. It's not wrong not to feel so bad. It's a horrible feeling. We just need to use some other strategies because and I won't get into all the effects of self-medicating, okay? So that's how you start approaching it. And I do a talk too about the brain, so we got to give the brain some other options. So the brain's going, I can't think, but this calms me down, so I'm going to do that. You know, so people will do that, and it's just because we don't want to feel so bad. So we need other strategies. So hopefully we'll get some strategies for her. Okay.
That's why I came.
Right on. Perfect. Thank you.
Elke?
Yeah?
What's the effect of excessive alcohol other than depleting the body of water? And like dehydrating the body?
Well,
Does the alcohol itself contribute to increased anxiety?
I didn't really go into that part of it. I didn't go into all the chemical effects of alcohol except for the lack of water. I mean, yes, it hurts your brain cells. We can go into that, but I didn't. Not in this case.
And it's a depressant.
It is, and anxiety and depression do go together. Mm-hmm. Okay, they do tend to go together. Is that okay?
I'm just wondering if any of the strategies that you're talking about work if the alcohol consumption continues.
You know what, and this is, I'll say this again and again, is you need to be committed to a daily practice. And the more that I do this work, I tell my clients you need to have a daily practice. And if you don't, and I learned the hard way, is I would do a daily practice, and then I thought, oh, I feel good. Stopped doing my daily practice and I fell in a pit. And I crawl out because I know my strategies, I get my tools, and away I go again. Oh, I don't need to do the daily practice. Boom. So I fell enough times and it was painful enough, I went, that's it. I don't want to do this trip anymore. I don't want to go up and down. I don't like crawling out of that hole. I knew I could crawl out, but it feels pretty crappy. Mm-hmm. So it was, and actually what's funny is Nick has talked about that too. When we have enough pain, you stop doing it. So I just went, you know what? I need to do something regularly to keep me out of this hole because I don't want to go there anymore. And that's the same with somebody that's using and self-medicating. Mm-hmm. And so we really need to make a commitment to ourselves and say it's enough. So someone isn't going to use the strategies, even what I'm showing you tonight, it's not that difficult. And you can do things that are fun. So, and that's what I would suggest, because if you like what you're doing, you're going to do it more, right? You know, do it every day. So that's how I started. I was committed to change, though. And you need to have that action. And so anyone coming out of an addiction needs to be in action mode. Do you know what I mean when I say that? They need to want to do it. If they don't want to, it's not going to happen.
No.
Even we can give them all the strategies. We can just say, here they are. And they still may want to drink, but they'll do it to solve the anxiety.
Well, that's to numb the pain.
And
but
the
then
feeling.
It creates more pain.
It does.
Yeah. Vicious circle.
It is a circle. So, and you know, one of the things is once it's enough, then you stop. That's what happened to me. I just went, I knew some of the strategies all along the way. But I finally had to say, that's enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I need to find something. And so, you know, to fill your cup all the time so that you have resilience, because life is going to happen anyways. Mm-hmm. At least you've got a full cup to deal with it. You're not that empty. And then you're in trouble, right? It's really hard to come out.
If you're an addict, you're even below empty.
Yeah.
Really.
Mm-hmm. They still have to want to change.
Yeah.
They still have to want to change. So I hope that answers the question. Physical. So this is always interesting because does lack of sleep come, you know, does it come first or does it come after? I don't know. Again, this is where everybody is different. We're all different, okay? So that's why I put chemical first, because it does affect directly how you sleep. You may look at, lack of exercise. We know that exercise does increase your endorphins and actually helps against anxiety. We do know that. There's tons of research on that. And The other thing is, on my website, I have a whole resources page, which I'm building, and also, I also have a gifts page that's free downloads and different things, so you're all welcome to go on it, share it, because to me, it's about helping people right away. So if somebody's looking, it's there, okay? And there's lots of resources. When we come to the resources part of the talk, there's some different sites I can talk about. Okay, reality. We talked about reality, about that dog, right? But there's other things that happen that can create anxiety so I mentioned a few, but decision making was one of the hardest ones for me. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, threw me into anxiety. Finding a job, managing finances, deadlines, upcoming performances, presentations. Anybody else? Just popcorn them. What else? What about a job interview? What about moving?
Yeah.
What about an upcoming doctor's appointment? Or a diagnosis? Okay, surgery. So again, know your limits. Always know your limits. If you know some big things are coming up ahead, boy, you want to ramp up the self-care. Right? We've got to keep that fuel full. Like you would no sooner not eat in a day. You've got to do the same for your soul and your psyche. You've got to take care of yourself. Okay? You got to fill up your cup. And again, know your limits. I know I can do 3 things that create anxiety, but the 4th one throws me in the pit. So I really try and avoid those kind of situations. But sometimes life happens, right? So 2 or 3 we can handle, right? Or 2 or 1, we can usually handle that. But if we pile on a few, it's really hard. It wears us down. So we've got to, again, know our limits. So what do we need to do to take care of that, okay? So any questions about the reality one? No?
Such a normal life has so many of those for so many of us. So hard not to. I think it's easy to say, cut down, but it's hard. If that's your normal life, you really have to make a big change.
Right. So you've got to think about your health. And you're right. And those are bigger questions. And I think it's important because I believe we have a gift of life. I believe we're all here to thrive. That we all have that capacity and we all have that right to enjoy this miracle of who we are. So that makes it easier for me to make some decisions and you're right. And the other thing, this is really interesting. I don't know if some of you do know Brene Brown, and I know I've shared that with you. If you read any of her books or YouTubes, our North America, we're set up for anxiety. From the time we get up in the morning, the media, the jobs, the pace is all geared and sets us up for anxiety. It's like, it's
Just
a
watching
setup.
one news episode, right?
Well, I don't watch the news for that reason.
Oh my goodness.
I can't. Okay? So, so think about that. Think about, that could be a whole debate about watching the news or not. I'm not going to go there. That's for another talk. But you know what? If watching the news for me throws me into anxiety, I'm not going to do it. Years ago, my kids know I don't listen to the radio, I don't watch the news, I don't read the newspaper. Some people are horrified. However, you have to know, if something's going on in the world, I know. Because somebody's told me about it. I'm part of the community. If I really need to know more about it, I can research it.
Yeah.
However, I have been in the news and I know the lies. So I'm not interested in reading lies. What I'm interested in is my own community. I'm interested in my family. I'm interested in what goes on with Nick. I'm interested in what goes on in Bracebridge. And really, if we do that, if we all do that, it would be okay. However, we get bombarded. And you're right, it creates huge anxiety.
I think kids today they want to be this globally connected person, and they're on the internet, like it's just too much. They don't know how to turn it off.
And that goes to the next one, overstimulation. Yeah, Margaret?
Just listening to you, one of the things I found that's really helpful is, and it's hard, sometimes just setting boundaries.
Yes.
So even when you're talking about some of the things, or some people can be triggers for me. So sometimes I have to set boundaries, and some of those people are people that are really challenging to set boundaries too, but that's part of my self-care. Otherwise I do that with the news too. I set real boundaries with stuff like that because I just know what the outcome's gonna be, and I don't enjoy being there.
Absolutely. So again, knowing your limits.
Pick your
Okay.
friend.
Sorry?
Pick your friend.
Yes.
Yes, pick your
And
friends.
sometimes you have to break up with people, and it's hard. Right?
And have boundaries, absolutely, and that's one of the things, so remind me, if I don't talk about energy and our resources, I wanna talk about that. So it's knowing your limits and having boundaries, and it's so interesting because I've had a teen coming into my practice, and we were going through this, and she was getting anxious with the amount of texts. She would get 20 texts before she'd go to bed.
Oh, boy.
And I said, so what does that feel like? She said, I just couldn't sleep because I felt I had to answer everybody. And I said, so what have you done? She said, I just told my friends I'm not answering any texts after 7 o'clock because I'm going to do my homework, I need to chill, I've got to relax. And I said, now how's that working for you? I'm sleeping better.
Wow.
So very cool boundary. So, and some kids can't do it and some can. So you're right, is encourage that. So if you've got that, or do it for yourself. Because it can be very addictive and intoxicating. You know, because we all want to belong and there's community. Oh, I've got 20 texts, so that's, makes me probably feel pretty important. Right? Yeah. So think about what it does. Know your limits. Right? Okay, so that includes cell phones, texts, computers, TV, gaming. So not that maybe everybody's a gamer here, but anyways. Okay. So the next one, and you know what? Do you want to take a little break?
Yeah, I want to stretch.
Okay, just